You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, many folks last year were stunned when allegations of sexual assault were levied against the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax. First by Vanessa Tyson, claiming it took place. She was forced to perform oral sex at the Democratic National Convention 2004. Then another woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Fairfax when they attended Duke University. There were numerous interviews that were done. Fairfax denied those allegations. The women wanted to have wanted to go before the Virginia Assembly, but they also said they were going to talk to investigators in Massachusetts, North Carolina. District attorneys in Massachusetts and North Carolina both said that if a complaint was filed, they would actually investigate. To this date, no complaint has been filed by either woman or their attorneys. Well, a couple of weeks ago, Justin Fairfax filed a $400 million lawsuit against CBS for advancing the narrative, interviewing Vanessa Tyson. He says it's time to clear his name, and he joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered for the purpose of full disclosure. I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha along with Justin, and also Beta Nu, chapter of Sigma Pi Phi of the Relay, and so that's important to state that. So, Lieutenant Governor, glad to have you here.
Thank you, Roland.
Thanks a bunch.
Happy to be back with you. Appreciate it very much.
So you first and foremost, you filed this lawsuit.
Yes.
Two women made these allegations. Right. You have said point blank, this did not happen.
Right.
They have been arguing that there should be a full investigation through the Virginia Assembly. Why did you file a lawsuit against CBS?
Yeah, well, we did file this lawsuit in federal district court in the Eastern District of Virginia against CBS because, they put these stories on the air, broadcast what were fabricated claims to millions of people across the country without doing their homework and with a reckless disregard for the truth. We were supplying them with information and questions to ask to test the veracity of the stories, and they really did not do what they needed to do to show, which is what we know today, is that these stories are fabricated and also politically motivated. And so, it was obvious to so many people in Virginia and around the country exactly what this was all about. It only occurred right around the time when it appeared that Governor Northam might step down and that I might ascend to the governorship of Virginia. It was at that precise moment that these false allegations were made because people were desperate to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia. And we have proof positive of that. We found text messages between the aide to the Richmond mayor, LeVar Stoney, the wife of one of his former top aides, where she says to Dr. Tyson that weekend, looks like Governor Northam's will be forced to resign tomorrow. We need to get your story out today to the press. And so it was obvious that the people were doing exactly what we suspected from day one, which were engaging in a smear campaign, because, again, there are some folks who are connected and powerful who are desperate to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia, and they've now been exposed for what they are.
When you talk about the folks targeting, again, so CBS did an interview with Vanessa Tyson.
Yes, and with Meredith Watson.
Meredith Watson.
Yes, both.
And both of their attorneys said that they were going to talk to the DAs there. You have called for the district attorneys to actually launch an investigation.
Absolutely.
Are you surprised that no complaints have actually been filed for the DA in Massachusetts, in Boston, and the one in North Carolina to actually pursue this? Because the statute of limitations has not run out.
Not in North Carolina. We believe it has in Massachusetts, but we were calling 6 months before the statute of limitations ran out for an investigation. And yes, whether I was surprised that there's been no complaint filed, I'm actually not that surprised because these are fabricated claims. And the last thing someone wants to do when they're fabricating a claim, particularly a serious claim of a supposed crime, is to talk to law enforcement, to go to talk to prosecutors and police, because the difference between going to police and going, for instance, to the General Assembly is that if you lie to the police, if you make material misstatements, and I'm a former federal prosecutor, so I know this process process very well, you can then be charged with a crime. It is a crime to lie to the police, to the FBI, to local district attorneys. And so if you're fabricating a claim and that claim starts to fall apart, the police discover it, then you yourself could be charged. So that from that standpoint, I'm not surprised. I know that Dr. Tyson's lawyers did say that they were going to meet with the DA in Boston back in February. Here we are in October, and that apparently still has never happened. And so we've shown so many fabrications and falsehoods and things about these allegations that completely were revealed to be untrue. It never happened, what they're alleging. Any crime, any inappropriate conduct never occurred. And we know, again, because of the timing, because of the means that were used, that this was all a smear campaign. And that was the whole point of it. And they had to rush it, actually, because we know they were holding on to some of these things and they were going to find the precise, great moment to try to stop me. And that could have been later down the road. But because Governor Northam looked like he might be stepping down, they had to rush it and hurry up and do this thing on a rush basis. And they got sloppy. And now people see exactly, what this was.
CBS responded, quote, "We stand by our reporting and we will vigorously defend this lawsuit." And what has been interesting, again, with the whole back and forth here, you've had her folks speak out. They were critical of the filing of this lawsuit, but there hasn't been much since. Mm-hmm. What do you attest that to?
Well, you're right, and it's interesting. We actually filed our initial complaint back in September. We filed an amended complaint on October the 3rd, and interestingly, Roland, neither CBS nor either of the attorneys for either of the accusers responded at all to that amended complaint. It's because it's a very powerful document, and I would encourage people to go read it. It's about 57 pages.
Where can they read it?
They can either go to a website called PACER, which is the federal court system, and they can find the complaint that way. It's also in a number of news stories online. And it really lays out very powerfully the facts, the case as to why these allegations, again, are completely fabricated. But then beyond that, how they were politically motivated. And we put actual screenshots of these text messages that are going back and forth. We put information about what CBS, what information they had, what information we were supplying them, questions that they didn't ask, and things that would have really shown that these stories were false, and yet they recklessly put them on the air, and millions of people saw them, and it does enormous damage to have these false stories. And so you noticed that none of the statements said we stand by the truth of the stories. Right? It said we stand by our reporting, but we're talking about whether these stories are true or not. And we know that they're not true. We know that they were aired to millions of people recklessly, with a reckless disregard for the truth. And they were defamatory. And that's why we filed the lawsuit that we filed. People should be held accountable. We really have to get out of this mode where people can say things without any evidence, without any proof, with obvious political motivations to try to do damage, and then simply walk away.
According to your complaint, you said that on Sunday, February 3rd, 2019, Scharf, which is Andrea Scharf, sent an urgent message to Tyson alerting her that Northam may be forced to resign tomorrow. Northam's resignation would immediately have elevated, obviously, you to the governorship.
Right.
And Scharf pushed Tyson, said, quote, that Thad and I think your story should get to the local press today rather than later. Dr. Thad Williamson works at the University of Richmond, professor there, was a former aide to Mayor Stoney. So first and foremost, Scharf denied that she had any involvement in any of this until these text messages came out. How did you get this text message? Yeah,
well, that's something that'll come out in court in terms of how we got them, but we got them, completely properly, and so we got the text messages and we added those to the complaint because they show. It's really the smoking gun in that case that this was completely a conspiracy that's politically motivated to try to stop me from becoming governor of Virginia. I mean, they say it themselves in black and white.
So LeVar Stoney, who's the mayor of Richmond,
right?
Have y'all been longtime political rivals? What does he have? What you're alleging? I mean, trying to stop you. What does he have against you? He calls it false.
Right. Well, again, he, I think, considers me a rival. I've never considered him a rival, but he has announced publicly, and it's a well-known fact that he wanted to run for lieutenant governor in 2017, and yet I ran and we won. He also has told people that he wants to run for governor or lieutenant governor in 2021. And so, obviously, if I'm governor and if I had served out the 3 years of Governor Northam's term and then run for another 4 years, that would have been 7 years as governor. And so, obviously, with his former aide's wife and them all conspiring, they wanted to stop that by any means necessary. So they were incredibly desperate to try to find some way to stop me from being elevated to the governorship back in February. And this was the means that they chose. And so what you're hearing now are a whole bunch of denials about, well, I didn't know this, or I wasn't aware of that. And it's so obvious to anybody who's been paying any attention what this was. And it's also obvious that, again, that these stories are false and fabricated. And so you had a number of people rush to judgment, came out, called for my resignation. You had people all over, the state, at least political insiders. The people have always been on our side.
And including the former governor, Terry McAuliffe.
That's right. In fact, Governor McAuliffe was, to my knowledge, the first major political figure in Virginia to call for my immediate resignation.
Were you close to ever resigning?
Never, because these things are false. And again, that's what we have to do. First of all, we have to speak up, have courage, and tell the truth. And I knew the entire time that I was telling the truth. And in fact, we've done everything that we can to show, again, these allegations are false and that I was telling the truth the entire time. I passed 2 lie detector tests. We reached out to the DAs. How many people do you know accused of a crime actually contact the DAs themselves, and say, please investigate this and I'll talk to you. I'll waive my Fifth Amendment right and I'll come in and I'll talk to you. And then when they wouldn't move, and we ended up filing a lawsuit, which now there is evidence being put forward through that lawsuit to show that these allegations were completely false. For instance, with Meredith Watson, her attorney, Nancy Erica Smith, is no longer even publicly vouching for the truth of the story. Ever since July 9th, when we had our attorney Barry Pollock reach out to the Durham DA and give them exculpatory information, they've completely changed their tune. And now they don't want to talk about it anymore. Well, they don't want to talk about it because it's revealed to be false.
And again, they're claiming, in Tysons Clay case, she's claiming you forced her to have oral sex. You say it was consensual. Meredith Watson, her case, she says that she was raped. You say the two of you were engaged in consensual sex.
That's correct. And again, there's other exculpatory information that we've already put out in the public record that's been out in the public record for some time. Ms. Watson also accused a Duke basketball player of rape, the year before. And again, to our knowledge, there's no evidence to corroborate that. And so as people have seen the facts, they've seen this play out, they now see very clearly what this was all about and what it continues to be all about. There are people, again, who remain desperate to try to stop me from being governor of Virginia. But again, the people have been on our side. I've traveled all around the Commonwealth of Virginia. I can't go anywhere without people coming up to us saying, we know these are false. We know, why they did this. We know who's behind this. And we really want you to make sure not only that you stay in this office, but you continue to serve the Commonwealth well into the future, and we got your back. We said a Washington Post poll come out, and we're plus 14 favorability rating. And that's even after all these lies have been told for, 7, 8 straight months. And yet the people still believe in us and people still are on our side.
When this first came out, there were individuals, there were people who immediately said, he's got to go, he's got to quit. Then I remember Eva Jones DeWeaver, one of the folks on our show, one of our panelists and others, they were sort of leery about this as well. There were some who said that even that this was an attack on a black elected official, even though you had 2 black women. Mm-hmm. Then you had people who were saying, look, you should believe the women as well. And this has been a strange story because you had the blackface scandal with the governor, Ralph Northam. Right. Then who claims that he did not know that how photos got on his page, has never said that was actually him. Right. But then you had the Attorney General, who's actually the next person behind you, who had a blackface scandal, who also announced 3 years earlier that he was running for governor as well.
Right. That's right. And as you mentioned, the timing made it so obvious to people what this was. This was a political attack. It's the weaponization of false allegations, and people. It's really sad and shameful and cynical because this is a real issue. I have survivors of sexual assault in my own family, and I've always stood up for people who have been harmed. I was a federal prosecutor. I have a young son and a young daughter, and so this is a very serious issue. But for people to stoop to the weaponization of a false allegation just solely to achieve a political goal, and then have their plans be exposed. it shows you exactly what this was and how shameful it continues to be. And again, so people are desperate to try to stop us, and we've shown them at every turn that these are false and that we're going to fight to not only clear my name, but to make our politics rise above some of the worst aspects of what we've seen. And Roland, it's not lost on anybody that this is one of the oldest, most racist tropes in this country. When all else fails, when you can't attack someone on their education or on their dedication to the community, on their public service, you accuse an African-American man of a horrific sexual crime
but
without any evidence.
Right, but you've been accused by 2 black women.
No, understood, but whose stories have fallen apart. And I think that's what makes this also doubly cynical. Because remember, there are other people involved in this. When they showed up with these allegations, again, one of which the Washington Post investigated for months last year and decided not to publish the story because it was uncorroborated. How many people have been, how many elected officials have been smeared with an uncorroborated allegation of this nature, and then, immediately asked to resign. People looked at 2 pieces of paper, 2 press releases, and called for your resignation. Now, meanwhile, those same people are radio silent now that the information, the evidence has come out that these were false allegations. So, again, Meredith Watson's attorney, if you call her today and ask her to publicly vouch for the truthfulness of the story, she has ceased to do that post-July. She now makes these bland statements about looking forward to everybody testifying in court. Well, they weren't looking forward to that because they didn't want to go to court.
Republicans have also seemed to backed off of holding impeachment hearings.
Yeah, and that was all a political circus from day one. And they are, again, cynically using, this issue and these false allegations, hopefully in their hopes for their own political benefit, but it's failing too. They're doing terribly in the polls. And every time they talk about this and they do a head fake on wanting to hold, these hearings, what they're reminding people is that they don't really have a plan. They don't have a record of accomplishment. And I say, they have a broken record, and they also sound like one because they keep talking about these things even as they are shown to be false and debunked. And so, we, again, have not only gotten through this, as I've said, we've been attacked many times, as you know, in the past, many times by people in our own party, but the people have always stuck with us. I've been very fortunate to have the support of the people. I've never gotten less than 48% of the statewide vote in any election we've ever run. We were elected to lieutenant governor with the most votes in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, 1.36 million votes. And so we continue to get this opposition, but we also continue to rise. We're elevated every single time they come after us and attack us, particularly in a case like this where it is so obvious what this has been all about. Making these false, cynical, shameful allegations, not wanting to prove it, and then as the information comes out showing that they're false, wanting to then not talk about it. Now it's radio silent. For 7 months, it was every single day. Wanted to talk about it and accuse me of things, and then when the evidence comes out, radio silence.
Will you file a defamation suit against Meredith Watson, against Vanessa Tyson?
We've not taken any litigation off the table and certainly are observing, everything that's going on. And we made it clear, I said from the start that I was going to clear my name, that these allegations were false, that I was not going to resign because there's no reason to resign over these false allegations, but also that we're going to hold people accountable. Again, we have to get out of this mode and this vicious cycle where some people, not most people, again, when people make these claims, they're very serious claims, everyone should be heard when these types of claims are made. But when they're lying and not telling the truth and fabricating stories, we cannot allow people to simply hurl these out into the public, do as much damage as they can, politically, personally, professionally, and walk away. People want to be arsonists in the lives of other people with false allegations. That has got to stop. And again, we know that there are many instances where these things are true. Here you have 2 that are completely false and fabricated and politically motivated. And people need to be held accountable for that.
Will you, obviously, in Virginia, a person can only serve 1 term as governor?
Right.
Are your plans to run for governor?
That's something we're seriously considering right now. And we're getting a lot of encouragement from people who want to see us run. And again, not that I wanted any of these things to happen. I mean, what happened with Governor Northam was a surprise, certainly to me and to those around us.
Should he still be there? Should he have quit?
As I said before, he has to make the decision that's in the best interest of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what I will say is, I appreciate the fact that he's committing himself to issues around racial equity and really doing substantive things to help heal some of the wounds of our past. Virginia is really where it all began. in America. We're exactly 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were forced to land in Hampton Point Comfort, 400 years since our General Assembly met, Jamestown. And so this country is dealing with a lot of its racial demons that it hasn't really dealt with in the past, and this is part of the process. But in this space where we're in, this historic time, to then throw on top of that fabricated false allegations against an African American, really against anybody, but against an African American sitting elected official who was, I'm 40 years old, I lived 40 years accusation free. And then, literally on the evening before they think I'm going to become governor, come out with these allegations that have been shown now over the past 8 months to be false and fabricated and politically motivated. I mean, to do that in that moment is particularly cynical, but I think the people understand what this has been all about. I think they are re-energized to deal, with those demons that we, have racially in this nation, and that the next 400 years, really starting that off on a very different foot. I mean, they're tired of the gutter politics. They're tired of the slash and burn politics of personal destruction. And I've always, in my public service, tried to call people to a higher purpose, to bring people together, to help people get opportunity, and that's really what we've been all about.
All right, then. Well, we certainly will see what happens next. Lieutenant Governor Tysons Fairfax, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland. God bless you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Life Luxe Jazz Experience taking place in Cabo, November 7th through the 11th. Of course, if you want to attend, go to lifeluxejazz.com, LIFELUXEJAZZ.com. But if you cannot be in Cabo for those 4 days, 14 different amazing artists, then of course you could live stream it. Get your live stream pass at gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com. As I said, amazing artists: Gerald Albright, Alex Bouillon, Kirk Whalum, Donna McClurkin, Shalia, Roy Ayers. Man, it's going to be an unbelievable 3-day extravaganza, and so look forward to you participating. And again, get your live streaming pass to cover those 3 days, all 14 concerts. You'll be able to watch right here on your phone, on your iPad, computer. Does not matter. Go to gfntv.com. That's gfntv.com to get your live stream pass. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.